Why does punishing your frontline nurses for safety errors actually cause more patient falls? It makes zero sense, right? Well, welcome to a special investigative explainer from the Human Error News Network. We're diving into the hidden cost of blame. I'm your host, and today we're briefing all of our safety correspondents out there on exactly why standard hospital protocols are completely failing us despite our absolutely best efforts.
I mean, if you're a hospital executive, this reality completely defies traditional management logic. You'd naturally assume, hey, a strict penalty corrects bad behavior, right? But what if I told you that exact mindset is the reason your fall rates are literally spiking right now? Now look, I'm not going to just hand you the answer right away, but fixing this, it requires a total paradigm shift in how we actually view human error.
To really grasp this, we have to look at the scale, 250,000. According to the Royal College of Physicians, that is the number of inpatient falls happening every single year in care settings. We're talking 250,000 adverse events. So listen, if you are struggling with this issue in your own facility, just know you are not alone here. We see it everywhere. Your struggle is part of a massive, deeply systemic issue that spans the entire healthcare sector.
And honestly, we know exactly what you're going through. You're exhausted, you write up new rules, you roll out endless protocols, you mandate these new training sessions, but your data? It just hits that exact same dangerous plateau every single time. And meanwhile, regulatory bodies are still continuing to flag your physical environment, your staffing levels. It's this super frustrating, endless loop that feels totally impossible to break out of.
Okay, let's dive into this. To actually understand why those protocols keep failing, we have to rely on the science of human factors and ergonomics. So let's look at Professor James Reason's Swiss cheese model of accident causation. It brilliantly illustrates this whole concept. Just think of your hospital's defenses, your culture, your education, your training, as slices of Swiss cheese stacked side by side. Now each slice has unintended weaknesses, right? Those are the holes. Usually, an error is caught and stopped by one of those layers. But when those holes perfectly align across multiple slices, boom, the hazard completely bypasses all your defenses and reaches the patient, causing real harm.
So, for your staff training guide, you absolutely must define the two reasons these holes even exist in your system in the first place: active failures and latent conditions. Now, active failures, those are the highly visible, unsafe acts committed by frontline staff right at the bedside. But latent conditions? Those are the hidden system flaws. Things like poor staffing, bad equipment, or just genuinely confusing policies. They just sit there, dormant, literally waiting to be triggered.
Let's rapidly break down those active failures, because let's be real, they happen every single day during care. Basically, we have 4 types. First, slips, like a nurse accidentally pressing the wrong button on a monitor. Second, lapses, forgetting a quick step in a routine checklist. Third, mistakes, which usually happen when an out-of-gate rule is completely misinterpreted. And finally, violations. These are deliberate deviations from safety protocols, usually just to save some precious time. But hey, here's the absolute crucial point you gotta remember. These 4 active failures, they are merely the symptoms. They are not your root causes.
All right, let's reset your attention for a second and look at a highly relatable micro-scenario. Imagine this dangerous alignment. A daily lapse finally meets a latent condition. Let's say a nurse skips a standard daily habit, like checking a patient ID before taking blood. Okay, that's a lapse. But we have to ask, why did they do it? Well, it's because they are chronically short-staffed and incredibly rushed on that floor. That right there is the latent condition. The hidden flaw in the environment actually forced the human error to happen.
So how do we actually go about fixing this environment together? Well, the core difference really lies in your culture. See, in a blame culture, staff are just going to hide their errors and near misses out of pure fear. So those holes in your Swiss cheese, they remain completely open and completely invisible to leadership. But in a just culture, staff report issues openly. Your defenses are strengthened because you can finally see the flaws. Psychological safety and a strong organizational culture act as your most vital, foundational layers of defense against patient harm.
Okay, let's move into some specific tactics and see how this builds into a truly actionable auditing process. The Joint Commission highly recommends a post-fall huddle, and here are the exact steps for that. Number 1, gather the staff and the patient as soon as humanly possible. Number 2, just discuss what happened and how it happened. Number 3, really explore the why. Was the call light on? Were they rushed? What environmental factors were actually in play? And number 4, adjust the care plan. But listen, you must use encouraging language during this entire process so your staff feel totally comfortable reporting near misses rather than feeling like they need to hide them. And what's really interesting here is the actual mandate from the Joint Commission. They strictly require a systematic, data-driven approach. It just isn't enough anymore to simply tell people to be more careful. You have to standardize and apply proven practices. This means utilizing standardized handoff communication between caregivers that specifically highlights fall risks and making absolutely sure there are continuous reassessments of patients who have already fallen, because as we know, their medical status can deteriorate incredibly rapidly.
Now, if a severe injurious fall does happen, your learning process has got to be structured. The Royal College of Physicians actually outlines 4 specific KPIs for injurious falls that must be explored. Number 1, was the patient safely moved from the floor using the appropriate equipment? Number 2, did they receive a proper medical assessment within 30 minutes? Number 3, was the next of kin informed? And number 4, was a patient safety incident officially reported? Really, these are your gold standard benchmarks for effective post-fall management.
And hey, speaking of benchmarks, here is an absolutely crucial insight for your own internal data tracking. You need to track your falls data over 18 months or more, and critically, do not benchmark your rates against other hospitals. Seriously, don't do it. Why? Well, tracking your own internal data over a long stretch naturally flattens out those weird seasonal variations and operational spikes. It makes your safety audits vastly more reliable than trying to compare your highly unique facility to a completely different organization across town.
So let's give you a totally clear roadmap to actually take action on this. If you are a hospital leader focusing on long-term risk mitigation strategies, this right here is a screenshot-worthy meeting agenda. Just naturally moving through it. First, you want to establish ground rules to create that psychological safety, and that goal is owned directly by your exec team. Next, audit daily habits to catch those active failures and lapses. That one's owned by your ward managers. And finally, run a system scan to find those hidden latent conditions, owned by your safety officers.
Which brings us to the single most important question you could possibly ask yourself today. What hidden, latent conditions are actively sabotaging your ward right now? Seriously, what broken equipment, confusing workflows, or staffing deficits are literally just waiting to align with a simple human lapse? I challenge you to call a meeting tomorrow morning to uncover these system flaws. But remember, finding the broken pieces of your system, that's really only half the battle. The real question is, once you expose them, is your leadership actually brave enough to fix them? This has been a special report from the Human Error News Network.